And then you're going to just go over the whole thing lightly. And the trick to getting it light is in your ink pad here, instead of going, you might pick up some color and then just swirl it around on the side, or you can wipe a little bit off on a scrap and use a light stroke with your hand. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now it is a little bit darker where I started out first, because each time I went over a line I went back and picked up more color. Now if they're not dark enough for you, once you've colored the entire thing in, then you can go back over those again. And that's one of the tricks to watercoloring, is to make those lines darker and to get darker colors rather than, you know, going over and over and over the same spot. You want to go over it, let it dry, and then go over it again. Because what will happen if you're using vanilla or Whisper White and you just keep going over and over and over and over it all at once, it'll eventually, the paper gets very wet and starts to break down and it'll get all nubby on you. So you're better off to go over it one time, let it dry, go over it again, let it dry, go over it again. So once you're happy with that, then you can go ahead and also color her little bow up here, which I don't do a whole lot real special with that, and her socks in Pretty in Pink. Now her bow does have a few lines on it, so we can go back and add a little bit more. Just like that. Now the under her little underskirt or petticoat, we're going to do the same thing. So Squish, this is Riding Hood Red, and I've chosen this color because this is the red that's in the paper. And again, we're going to pick up some and just go over her skirts here, her little underskirt. And then now that I've colored it all, I'm going to go back and go over it again to make it a little darker. And I'm picking up color quite often because I want it to be dark. Alright, there's her little underskirt. And then we're going to do the heart. Now if you'll notice, on this heart I made it very light over here and darker over here. And to do that, I'm actually going to start, I'm going to go over it one time over here. You kind of got to watch your little thumb. And then as I'm starting to lose color, because I'm running out, then I'll go to the other side. So each time I add more color, I'm going back to that near her hand and then working my way out. And that's going to help me get my shading. And then once I get to this point, I just stop going on this side at all and just add more near her hand. And again, I'm picking up color each time. And that looks pretty, whoops, excuse me, pretty good. Okay, now as this dries, sometimes your colors are going to lighten up, so you may decide that you want to go back over it. And it looks like I need to go back over the top of her dress a little bit. So I'm just going to do this again. Oh, and the other thing I should mention is between colors, for those of you that haven't used an aqua painter before, once you have, you know, I have pink or I have red, when I'm done using that color, I just, on my scrap, I just keep wiping it until it's not leaving any color. Okay, now for her hair, we're going to use Crumb Cake. So again, we're just going to squeeze. this in. And if you ever have too much water on your brush, then just wipe it off on your scrap paper, or some people like to just keep a paper towel handy. There we go. And again, I can go back in and add some more where the darker lines are. It's very nice with Stampin' Up! To put those shading lines in there for us. It makes life easy. And I can tell you, if you try this technique and you are not happy with the results, there's a couple things. First is you need to practice, because I was awful at watercoloring. I could do anything else, but I could not watercolor to save my life. And, you know, over time, I've just done it again and again and again, and I've gotten better. The other thing is, if you get frustrated with this, is to try Stampin' Up's watercolor paper. It's made to work with the wet, so it's much more forgiving. The colors move over the surface terrifically. This one I wanted to show you just on the regular vanilla or white, and I especially wanted the vanilla because I wanted it to go with my paper. Now, the watercolor paper would go with this just fine, but I really wanted that vanilla, that soft look. So, but definitely give that a try. And there are some great techniques using markers, the Stampin' Right markers to color with the watercolor paper that I will be definitely showing as one of the techniques that we'll learn. So the last thing we're going to do is color her skin. And for this, Stampin' Up! Still carries a Blush Blossom marker, however they don't carry the ink pad anymore. So we're just going to color her in with the marker. And when you first color her, it may seem kind of bright or dark for skin tone, but it does sink into the paper and get a little lighter, so don't panic. Alright, so she's all colored. Now, the last thing I did was I actually added a little bit of the pink pirouette around the edges. So again, squeeze. Oops, find the right one here. And all I did was add a little bit at the corners and then go down the side. And this just helps it give, you know, a little bit more warmth and an old-fashioned feel to it. Okay, so there we go. Now, again, to add a little more of that old-fashioned feel, I'm going to distress this just using my fingernail. So all you do is push your fingernail along the side, like that, and basically you're just tearing up the edge. And then I'm going to take some chocolate chip and a sponge and lightly hit the edges. Like that. And she's pretty much done. Then for the rest of the pieces, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add some sponging on the edges. As fast as I can, because I know it's no fun to watch this happen on 4 or 5 pieces of paper. And yes, I do it on the black one. It does show up a little bit here and there where the vanilla is, so. Okay, and even on these little bitty hearts.